And we've had this conversation, like I just, like when I watch TV, like it's really not to, and remember we talked about this, like why we think people watch television, like in the past, like I think you watch it either to like escape from reality, right? Or to give some type of like parody of reality, or some perception of it, or watch it itself, right? Like the news or what's really going on in the world.
You sometimes I feel like television shows you the way I see reality.
Yeah, sure. It could be a lot of different reasons, right?
Or it's a fortune teller.
Yeah,
it's how it's turning out to be.
Yeah, that too.
And that's scary.
Yeah,
but I at least know I've got to shoot them in the head.
But I mean, that's crazy though, because that's like almost people who've just studied human, like how humans actually are. 'Cause I'm over here looking like some of this feels like fortune telling, but it's also just like, nah, I just read the history books and seeing like we ain't changing as human beings yet. It's just a different shit.
It's because no one thinks outside their box.
Are y'all talking about a show?
No.
Oh,
just in general.
I was just making sure. Like Netflix has everything. There's this show. Mike, you gotta watch. No.
I like the documentaries on Netflix.
Okay, so I would agree. Like I like informational things, But I would agree. I think there's certain things they're very, very interesting that's on television. Like, as far as let's take television out of it, right? Let's like on Netflix or like Hulu or something like that. That I think probably would be interesting. But to each his own. Like how do we enjoy receiving new information? Like, I mean, I love Audible. I like reading certain books, and it's funny because we talked about this thing regarding retaining information. Like, I think that helps me in a sense, right? And I have that aspect of using my imagination or trying to see the picture myself. The more I can kind of like self-actualize and think about like why I'd rather not see it. And why I'm such a big fan of movies, because, I want to see the beginning, middle, and the end. And I like seeing the artistry of like what happened on screen in that regard. And then from there,
you can do that when you binge watch.
No, you can't at all. At least and this is someone who doesn't do it, right? So maybe this is the perception that I have, right? Like
Netflix's series don't go on for very long, so you get the beginning and the middle and the end.
After 5 hours or a full day of looking at the TV screen.
As a writer, I'm gonna tell you exactly what you're watching because I've had to study all this stuff. All right, so it's something I've broken down. I wish I could go up here and draw it on the board. That's what we always used to do too, y'all. Like just
whiteboard. Whiteboard. Don't give one to Mike.
There's a reason why I have all these freaking whiteboards around here now, man. It's because of Mike.
Oh Lord.
And so basically, like, all right, every single story. All right, so I'll break it down with like my book. Like I have, in like each book. I plan on writing 5 for this whole series. Like each book has its own. It's all leading up to the big end that I already have inside of my head. So we have the beginning here, like he's just discovering himself, blah blah blah, and by the end there's the big fight. So there's the beginning, middle, and end, almost with just the book series already. Then I break it down even more to all right. Now each book has to have its own beginning, middle, and end that leads to that. So there's There's the bigger plot, and then there's the subplots, and then after that, like each book now is broken down into chapters. Each chapter literally has its own beginning, middle, and end as well. So like it's the same thing with like Netflix, like so yeah, that's all leading up to something. If you're a good writer, some folks just aren't doing that whatsoever. They just making that shit up as they go along. But Stranger Things, they like know that they know what their end is gonna be. So each season, is a beginning, middle, and end. But each episode also is a beginning, middle, and end too. So,
and I see that in Stranger Things.
Yeah,
I do. It wasn't a point of, I've got to watch this next one. It's like, what time is it? How much time do I have in order to see the next one? So I think you would probably like that better than most things.
So I want you to. I'm looking at it like this, and I think this will probably help. Like so. You and I have had this conversation, like we've all had this conversation with books versus movies. Me and Mike are team movies.
Movies all day.
Yeah, and so
yeah.
So
What'd you say?
movies all day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and
All
so
right.
it's the same
But
thing.
but isn't it curious that his favorite movie is about a boy who reads a book?
Correct.
Probably because you get it done quicker. I ain't gonna lie to
So
you.
go on. I just had to throw that in there.
So I want you to look at it like this. So the way that television series are starting to look like, they're starting to take a lot of stuff, a lot of their source material from books. And so one of the dope things I'm starting to, like, one of my biggest things with, movies becoming books or books becoming movies, like, is that they can't put in all the great information that's in there. So with television series now, imagine as if like now I can literally go through each chapter and literally do what's inside of, the book and stuff like that, because I actually got the time to do it now, because I'm stretching this thing out over an hour just for this one episode, as opposed to, I got to bring out, 400 pages worth of a book in 2.5 hours, because people got the attention span of a damn goldfish, which I don't know if they have bad attention spans. I just heard that on Ted Lasso. And so, but like, yeah, so now you get you get like everything you'd want in a book as far as like being able to understand all of the information. Only now it's just in a series. That's it.
So it's like, Ryan, you make a great point. And I'm saying it because it kind of, I never really thought about why, or at least tried to like figure out a way to articulate what I was really trying to express about why I value the film so much more. Mm-hmm. And that's a great example of, and maybe this is more of a personal preface than not necessarily the fact that it's not as good, right? Mm-hmm. So let's take that same example you just gave, right? I think in a film, and I've said this before, like if a writer, director, a film team, actors, etc., are able to capture in X amount of time what everybody who has read a particular book, but put it like on screen to where, I don't want to say the most important things like are actually displayed, but like the actor has the ability to bring out either the emotion that was felt or there's a scene. It's not the book verbatim. You know what I mean? It's not that. It's just like, hey, I can recall this when I was visualizing this when I was reading. I can recall those instances. Like I now can see why like the Great Gatsby was what he was, right? Yeah. And thus this scene. And it's very similar, right? You know, in film, like in this scene, not necessarily this like short film. And I think you're making a good example. Like I'm not interested in seeing like such I guess such a great example, as you would say, like in a small series, like how a chapter would be. Yeah. Like I don't want to see that. I like I might have read this and maybe got like 2 or 3 nuggets from like chapter 4. Like that's great. But those are the things that I needed to actually get from that chapter. Like the small details, like in between it, actually weren't that important. But I wanted to see like, oh, okay, so this chapter displayed why, Susan like had such a melancholy feeling regarding like losing her husband, right? Yeah. But there's only a few things within that chapter where you captivate that. So it's like I'm not that interested in watching like play by play. So maybe that's why when I'm saying like I don't want to see the series. Like I like to see like what did you if this is what you're trying to like I guess portray, right? In your film or like in your series, like I'm interested in the small, more like laser like focus. Like those are things that I ponder on the most. You know?
That's almost what like each episode is. Like it get like you're able to digest more. I mean, like even like with Stranger Things, it's just like damn, like what in the world would I like? Sometimes people will be upset. It's just like it's just going so slow, and I'm just like damn, like I'm able to digest this character more. Like I'm able to like see myself in them a whole lot better. Like it's one of the dopest things, and like it's one of like. For example, like Hunger Games, like I did an experiment where like I read a book first and I watched the movie, and then I watched the movie first and I read the book. And so like I realized I like to watch the movie first and then read the book. But if they make it into a series, I'm fine. But like it's the same thing with like Hunger Games. Like I remember like when I read that and like what they couldn't capture in that movie was Rue and Katniss's freaking relationship, like why when she died in the movie it was so big, right? Because you like, but those who read the book like no, but like in a series now, like we can spend a whole episode on just like
so dig it, right? Like you see, so here's the thing, like so I didn't read Hunger Games, but I watched the film, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you missed stuff.
No, here's the thing though, Tammy. Like you just gave a great example. I caught that in the film.
Mm-hmm.
I caught that. And my thing is like am I that attentive to the small details about why the camera angle was the way it was? Mm-hmm. Why capture this sound over another? Like why have this stare between them last longer than the other? And that is where my mind goes into like this realm of just of understanding like the details in between that. So it's like I don't want it in front of me. Like I guess it gives me the excitement of understanding like, wow, that was captivated. So when I go on throughout the film, I'm looking at other small little nuances like within the film that affirm that. And I guess for me, like that is like the gold nugget I found like amongst the sand, right? That is the gem, that is the jewel. So it's that excitement, guys. It's not like, hey, I guess I want to be able to on my own decide to dive deeper as opposed to you taking me deeper.